Hey, this is X-Cult Baby with another Atheist Bible reading, and today I'm going to be going over the story of Moses. Mostly I want to cover, the whole story of the Israelites leaving Egypt, which, historically never happened. But I'm going to be covering that whole story in 2 or 3 parts or so, but today I'm just going to be focusing on baby Moses and basically everything that happens before the plagues. I decided to do this one because right now when I'm filming this, it's late April, and there's a lot of religious holidays happening. Easter, if you're like a mainstream Christian, the Memorial, if you're a Jehovah's Witness. But the one that I really wanted to focus on that is kind of related to this story is the Passover. So that's really what inspired me to focus on Moses and the exodus of the Israelites out of Egypt. Alright, with all that being said, let's get into the story. So, to preface this story, Jacob, nicknamed Israel, and his whole family moved to Egypt. The reason they moved out there was because one of his sons, Joseph, was basically the second most powerful guy in the country. So, they all decided to move over there because prospects were good. Eventually, Joseph and all of his brothers die off, so now all of their offspring is multiplying really quickly, and the Egyptians are getting kind of paranoid about how many of them there are. So the new pharaoh goes all make Egypt great again, and they enslave all of the Israelites and put them to work building for them. But even when they oppress them, they keep multiplying more and more for some reason. Like maybe they were just having more sex to alleviate the stress of slavery, I don't know. But apparently they were still growing in number. So Pharaoh tells these 2 Israelite midwives that anytime they go to deliver an Israelite baby and it comes out a boy, that they have to kill it. And obviously they don't do this, and they just tell the Pharaoh when he asks them, hey, why aren't you killing these babies? They're like, well, the Israelite women are like so good at giving birth that by the time we get there, they're just already done, so we didn't have a chance to do anything. Sorry. And God is so pleased with these midwives that he gives them the privilege of being able to have families of their own, because I guess giving birth is like the only thing that women are good for in these days. And anyways, Pharaoh is like, alright, midwife thing didn't work out, so instead we will just throw every single male baby that is born to the Israelites into the Nile River, because that's the best we can come up with. So, this one Israelite woman hides her baby boy for about 3 months, and she can't hide him anymore. So she decides that the best course of action is to put him in a basket, and put the basket in the Nile River, because that's definitely got to increase his chances of survival, right? Just set him afloat. Oh, and she sends her older daughter to keep an eye on him, because that'll definitely keep him from, drowning, starving, suffocating, that she'll be able to handle it. And, lo and behold, by the magic of mythology, the Egyptian princess finds the baby, and she's like, oh, I've always wanted a little slave baby, but I'm not able to nurse this baby. I wonder who will be able to do it for me. And then the baby's sister pops out of the bushes, and she's like, hey, I know an Israelite woman who can nurse that baby for you. So, the Egyptian princess ends up paying the actual mother of the baby, who she named Moses, to breastfeed him until he's completely weaned. And in movies and stuff, they make it seem like Moses' Israelite heritage is like a big reveal, like he may not have known growing up. But even as a 3-month-old baby, the Egyptian princess looks at him and she's like, oh, that's an Israelite baby for sure. So clearly he doesn't look Egyptian, he looks Hebrew. It's like if a white family adopts a black baby, even if they don't tell the baby that he's been adopted, he will figure it out eventually. So it's probably not really a surprise. So Moses grows up as an Egyptian prince, and one day he goes to see what life is like for the rest of his Israelite kin. Now, I would think that if you have somebody who is obviously ethnically Hebrew sitting in the court of Pharaoh, that there would be some sort of social revolution or something, but no, they just keep being slaves, and Moses apparently is just kind of cool with that. So he goes to see what's going on with them, and Moses sees that one of the Israelites is being beaten by an Egyptian. So what Moses does is he looks around and makes sure no one's going to see him, and he kills the Egyptian. It's not an accident or anything. He specifically is trying not to get caught, and he kills the guy. And the next day he sees these 2 Israelite guys fighting, and he tries to break up the fight, and one of them's like, what are you going to do, murder me and hide the body like you did that Egyptian guy? And then Moses is like, oh shit, I've been found out. So then the Pharaoh hears about it, and he obviously is gonna try to have Moses killed because, he killed an Egyptian. So Moses skips town and he ends up in the land of Midian. He ends up next to a well where some Midianite girls are trying to get water for their father's flock. And some other shepherds are there and they're kind of bullying the girls, but Moses helps them get water for their flock. So it turns out these girls are the daughters of a priest in Midian. And the priest basically takes Moses in. Moses marries one of the guy's daughters and he becomes a shepherd. Everything's cool. Life is good. Meanwhile, back in Egypt, the former pharaoh who wanted Moses dead dies, but the situation for the Israelites is not getting any better. So finally, God actually notices the Israelites and he's like, oh yeah, I guess I did promise your forefathers that I'd take care of you guys, huh? Well, I guess I'd better deliver you from all of this hardship that I've let you come into in the first place. So one day, Moses is shepherding his father-in-law's flock, just doing his thing, and he notices that there's a bush on fire and he goes in to investigate. It turns out the bush, even though it is clearly on fire, it's not burning up for some reason. So he goes in closer and then there's a voice and is like, hey Moses, take off your sandals. Oh, by the way, it's me, God, the God of your forefathers. I swore to protect your people, and I just noticed that they've been suffering, and there was a baby massacre and all that stuff. So, I gotta get them out of that. And I'm gonna send you to go tell Pharaoh that he needs to let you and all the Israelites go, and then I'm gonna bring you guys to a promised land that's already inhabited by people, but we'll kill those people off, so it'll be fine. And Moses is like, well, why can't you just, teleport us to the promised land or something? Why do I have to talk to Pharaoh? And God's like, oh, because this will be more interesting this way, that's why. And Moses is like, well, what if the Israelites don't believe me? And God's just like, just tell him I sent you. Also, Pharaoh is not going to believe you, but that's okay, because then when he doesn't believe you, I'll fuck his shit up. And Moses is like, well, why can't you just make the Pharaoh change his mind? And God is like, well, that wouldn't be very interesting. And I'd be interfering with his free will. And that's a core doctrine of Christian theology, so I definitely can't make somebody think a certain way. Oh, and also make sure that you and the other Israelites steal shit from Egypt on your way out. And Moses is like, okay, so what if I tell them that you sent me and they still don't believe me? What do I do then? And God's like, well, here's some close-up magic tricks that you can do for them that'll probably convince them that I sent you. And then he turns Moses' staff into a snake and he temporarily gives him a debilitating disease. Yeah, because disease and snakes totally make people think, oh yeah, God's got this guy's back. Snakes and disease. And Moses is all like, okay, well, that's great, but I'm really bad at public speaking. So bad. Why would you pick me? And God's like, listen, Mo, I giveth and taketh away, I make the blind blind. I make the deaf deaf. I make the mute mute. I am the one that does all these things, and I say it specifically that I do bad things to people. Yeah, that's a verse. God definitely says that he makes people deaf and blind and mute, so that's cool. And then Moses is like, oh, okay, so you're going to magically make me a better public speaker? And God's like, well, I didn't say that exactly. And Moses is like, okay, then why did you even pick me? Just have somebody else do it. Why would you even ask me to do this? And then God's like, fine, your brother Aaron can go with you and do all the talking, and you can just stand there. Why he just didn't pick somebody in the first place who was a good public speaker, I don't know. So Moses takes his wife Zipporah and their son, and they head to Egypt, and God is like, do all the tricks I showed you for Pharaoh. And even after you do that, he is not going to listen to you because I've hardened his heart so that he won't listen. First of all, he's telling Moses to do something that he knows will be pointless. In fact, he told Moses it'll be pointless because he's not going to listen because he's hardened his heart. But second of all, he's the one that's making it pointless because he hardens Pharaoh's heart so that he won't listen. Now, if you grew up one of Jehovah's Witnesses, in the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures, which is the Bible that Jehovah's Witnesses most commonly use, it says that God allows Pharaoh's heart to become hardened, so it takes the blame off of God. In that translation, it's worded so that it is not God's fault. That God allows Pharaoh's heart to become hardened is the phrasing that's used. But why would that translation make sense? Why would it even bring God into the picture? Why can't it just say Pharaoh's heart was hardened or Pharaoh stubbornly refused? used? Why say that God allowed his heart to become hardened? Why can't it just say that his heart was hardened? Because if God routinely allows people to make their own decisions, why would it even mention God allowing him to do something that is normal for him to allow? So, on that note, in literally every other translation of the Bible that I could find on the internet, it says that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Not that he allowed his heart to be hardened, but that God hardened his heart. Does this conflict with common Christian doctrine? Yes, that's probably why it was changed in the New World Translation. But clearly, it's not accurate. Because, like I said, it wouldn't make sense to translate it that way, for one thing. Like, if that was what the message was trying to convey, the wording doesn't make sense. So, why would it be translated that way? And two, pretty much every other translation translates it exactly the same way. So, there doesn't seem to be a lot of conflict about what this verse means, except for in the New World Translation for some reason. So God is making Pharaoh obstinate and then punishing not only him, but all of Egypt for it. As I mentioned earlier, this idea that God is making Pharaoh not listen, that he is making him make this decision not to listen to Moses, is totally in conflict with Christian theology. Because in Christian theology, you have free will, you are allowed to do whatever you want, and God is punishing you based on the choices that you make. If God is making the choices for you and then punishing you for it, that is so transparently not fair. And yet, that's what the Bible is saying is happening right now. God is making Pharaoh obstinate and stubborn and not listening to Moses. And this happens multiple times throughout the story. But it's saying right now that he's going to do this, and then it happens several times later, which I will bring out those points when it comes up. But yeah, he's making him not listen and then punishing him and the entire nation of Egypt for it. That is obviously cruel. I would honestly love to hear whatever Christian apologists have cooked up for these verses, because I'm sure it's bullshit. I can't think of any explanation for these verses that would make this okay, you know? Like, the only way I could think to make it okay is the way that the New World Translation tries to change the words so that it doesn't seem like God is making the decision for him. But every other translation says the same thing, so clearly the New World Translation is wrong. So yeah, this is kind of a problem. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Next Thursday, I will be doing part 2 that will involve the 10 plagues and the parting of the Red Sea. So, if you like this video, please give it a like, leave a comment, and most importantly, share it. I have links to all of my social media in the description and my email address, so if you want to follow me on any other platforms or contact me, that's where you go for it. I'm XCultBaby, reminding you to go free yourself. Thank you for watching.